Okay, straight away, shall we just all agree that everything sounds funnier in an Italian accent? Which is a good thing, because in this film you've definitely got some... Well, people are really trying, let's put it that way. Welcome to Richard Reviews, House of Gucci. So House of Gucci is based on the real life story behind how the Gucci family became one of the top names in fashion. Obviously, their company doesn't grow to the top without a bit of backstabbing, a bit of underhand dealing, maybe just a little bit of murder as well. So, you ready for me to butcher all the Italian names here? Lady Gaga stars as Patrizia Reggiani, a working class woman who sets her eyes on Maurizio, heir to the Gucci legacy. The film follows her attempts to manipulate her way into wealth and power from her humble beginnings. For me, this film has a lot of similarities to Wolf of Wall Street. You'll have to bear with me for a sec on this. For a start, both films have a cast of larger-than-life characters and open with some really hilarious and endlessly watchable scenes. Obviously, this all then descends into a little bit of madness, and both definitely take a darker turn towards the end. They're also both interesting character studies of how far someone will go to get what they want. And also, just like Wolf of Wall Street, this is quite a long film at clocking in at nearly 2 hours 40 minutes. The thing is, I felt the plot did move quite slowly in moving the story along, definitely in the first hour. There's a lot of setup and it does take quite a long time to progress things in the early stages. When all the manipulating starts around the halfway mark, you're more than ready to see some development in these characters. But the changes come so quickly, it almost feels a little bit like Game of Thrones Season 8, not necessarily in a good way. The motivation for some of these characters, particularly Lady Gaga's Patrizia, might have only been hinted at, but it suddenly jumps to what the inevitable conclusion is without really much due process. Another issue for me, the film never really got as dark and interesting as some of the trailers made out, or even what some of the lines in the film hint at. Really, most of the backstabbings come down to business dealings and misdirects with the law, and I just don't think that's as interesting to watch as maybe the film thinks it is. It really only goes to those darker places right at the end of the film. It's so signposted that it doesn't really come as a shock or surprise when it finally happens. Now, even if I did think the plot slowed or was slightly less interesting towards the end, the one thing that really does prop the film up is some fantastic performances. Lady Gaga is amazing in this film. She continues to show just how fantastic an actress she can be. She turns in a pretty nuanced performance, and it can be fun, definitely at the beginning, to see her sort of bumble her way through initial interactions with Maurizio. But then her turn to intense and flawed but menacing is fantastic when that happens. It's just a shame then that she sort of disappears for about half an hour near the end of the film. And for me, the film really felt like it slowed down around this time without her in the picture. Luckily, two other standouts, Al Pacino and Jared Leto, both are turning in absolutely scenery-chewing performances. They really dominate pretty much every single scene they're in. Jared Leto, in particular, is completely unrecognisable. I was sitting there thinking, I know that's Jared Leto, but what for the life of me does he actually look at? Because he transforms so much in every single film he does, and this is no exception to that. Due to this absolutely massive, larger-than-life performance he gives, he really is hilarious in the film, and he definitely gets some of the funniest and most memorable lines throughout the film. Overall, I think this film is a bit of a mixed bag for me. You do have some great performances throughout, despite some pretty, I'll be generous and say, varying quality of Italian accents throughout. And the first half in particular is just so entertaining and funny to watch. The quality of the Italian style that this film has never drops throughout, although I would say the pace definitely does towards the end. There isn't really any crescendo that I felt. The ending just arrived, and once it reaches its conclusion, you're not really left with too much long-lasting impression of the story or anything to dwell on in particular. For me, I think I'm going to have to say wait for this to come out on Netflix. You'll definitely enjoy the massive performances from the safety of your sofa, but maybe you can turn to your phone in the slightly slower moments if it's not keeping your attention. So that was my thoughts on House of Gucci. What do you think are the best films based on real life events? Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.